Companies winning with AI aren't waiting for perfect data. They're rewiring their operating model before their competitors can react.
The other companies would have done it. The gap between your revenue as well as your profits will start compounding quarter on quarter.
You're scaring many leaders right now.
This is fundamentally an operating model shift, not a tool adoption.
That's Rohini Williams, Senior Vice President and Global Head of Strategic Growth for Private Equity and Restructuring at Ascendion. And according to Rohini, the firms creating the most value with AI aren't necessarily the ones spending the most on AI.
People won't pay for AI tools or AI readiness. They pay for something which can be industrialized, durable, and scalable.
You'll discover why private equity firms may have the biggest AI advantage in the market, why waiting for perfect infrastructure can destroy your competitive position, how AI native operating models are accelerating enterprise value, and why the gap between winners and losers may already be compounding.
If you start cleansing your whole data in the entire organization, modernizing your entire infrastructure, it will be too late. Once an organization rewire its operating model for AI, then their success is just going to compound.
I'm your host, Ben Fanning. This is AI Native Leaders. Rohini Williams, Senior Vice President, Global Head of Strategic Growth, Private Equity and Restructuring at Ascendion. Welcome to AI Native Leaders.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you getting me here.
Most of the conversation around AI right now is focused on large enterprises trying to figure it all out. But in your world of private equity, portfolio companies, et cetera, there is a different dynamic. And AI just isn't about a technology shift. It's becoming a race. So when speed becomes a true advantage, who's actually positioned to win and who's already falling behind?
Excellent question, Ben. You're changing how teams work, how software gets built, how decisions get made, how delivery happens, and in many cases, how the organizations itself creates value. And that requires cross-functional alignment, not experimentation, but the ability to iterate very quickly. But the companies seeing biggest impact for AI are the ones who are able to pivot faster without the whole decision loop going into an endless momentum, right? And that's where private equity is successful, right? They don't have any public pressures. They are aligned to making decisions fast and operationalize this change very, very quickly, right? That's why private equities, they have an advantage. Once the leadership aligns to the value thesis, they can move decisively and redesign execution at speed. The PE world, the dynamics are very different, right, from large public companies. You don't have the governance loop. You don't have approval layers. You don't have elongated decision-making, which slows you down. So once the leadership is aligned on the value, organizations can move very decisively. That's why AI is becoming much more than a productivity tool in this environment. It's getting that speed and value creation engine which moves faster in the PE world.
Do you have an example of an AI or of a private equity company that was able to really latch on to AI and redesign quickly in a way that a public company just wouldn't be able to normally do?
Yeah, there are huge amount of technology debts that some of these companies carry. Modernization is absolutely key for them to move faster in terms of revenue recognition, in terms of acquisitions. And we just help a portco where we help them in modernizing the entire legacy, which would have taken them probably multiple years in just 2 quarters, which helped them increase their engineering efficiency, which means faster revenue for them, decrease their engineering costs, which means EBITDA expansion for them, right? So the firms that are creating most value, right, are the firms who are looking at engineering at velocity, right? Decreasing your modernization time, using agentic development in your software development lifecycle for faster code. Product throughput is increasing.
So what's your favorite, like maybe you can't name the customer, but what's your favorite one so far that you guys have been able to jump in and modernize?
The favorite one so far is a portfolio company, a software company, of course, which needed to modernize their entire engineering, and that's where
Mhm.
Ascendion jumped in to create the whole agentic way of working around it, as opposed to
Mhm.
the traditional software development life cycle, which does not work. People don't pay for AI tools or AI readiness. They pay for something which can be industrialized and is durable and scalable, right? So if a private equity is looking to sell an asset, they would want to sell an asset which is AI in its operating model, not the best gadgets or tools or infrastructure in town, right? Because soon AI as a software will get commoditized, tools will get
Yes.
commoditized, right? But
Mhm.
it's the operating model which will not get commoditized, and that's up to the portfolio company or the private equity to drive that operating model change for those portfolio companies to make AI scalable. That will impact the multiples on the invested capital.
So when you say the operating system, you mean the very foundation of the system or very foundation of the company, the processes, the technology that run the backbone of the company. If those are infused with powerful AI processes, whether that be generative AI or agentic AI, like agents, you're betting like, hey, this is going to increase the value of this company so much and the scalability that it's gonna make it a much more valuable investment for people to come in. Like, investors are
Absolutely,
gonna be saying,
absolutely. Right,
"Hey,
right.
have you
Because
seen
looking at
people?"
30 to 50% of driving engineering costs down, 2 to 4x of product velocity, faster time to MOIC expansion, 50 to 70% of productivity gains, not
Oh,
the 10, 20, 30 that we're talking about. 20 to
wow.
40% of faster revenue recognition, right? And not just one port core. Can we scale it across all port cores, right? That will drive
Wow.
your MOIC.
Do you wow, that's right. So you come in, you're talking to a portfolio leader, which I knew like that's your day, right? You're talking to portfolio executives. They want to enhance the equity of their organizations. Where are you seeing the most initial gains and, like, which part of the company? Because they come in, right? They've got all these legacy systems in place. You can't do everything at once. Where are they getting the initial big gains?
The biggest gain that we should go after is processes which are closest to your revenue recognition, right? So, for
Okay,
example, for a software company backed by a private equity, it is engineering. If
okay.
you can drive engineering at velocity, which means faster releases to the market, which means faster revenue, and then
Mhm.
if you can optimize cost on engineering, which is your core, right? You can start optimizing the non core as well. So
Mm.
engineering at velocity for software companies for sure. And like you rightly pointed out, when around legacy modernization, gone are the days where you have to sign 3 to 5 year deals or even 2 year deal to start modernizing your entire legacy.
Yeah.
You've got platforms and tools which understand the context, the risk, the guardrails, and can modernize it in quarters, if not
Yeah.
months, right? So tech debt reduction is one, which includes legacy modernization as well. And the second thing would be engineering at velocity. And then, of course,
Well,
which is your core, you can focus on non-core like finance and accounting, you know, call center operations, customer service operations. Those are the other ones that you can you can start immediately taking it off and agentifying it. Ben, cost takeout is table stakes, right? You've got so many companies looking at labor arbitrage. Now we're looking at AI arbitrage. And now it's how can we get the market share through AI? And let me explain this to you, right?
Hmm.
There is so much of technical debt that companies are sitting on, which results in experience debt. And because you
Hmm.
have that technical debt, you've not been able to give the best experience to your customers. And hence, you've lagged on your market shares. However, with
Hmm.
AI and engineering at velocity, you can reduce your tech debt, you can reduce your experience debt. And when you reduce your experience debt for your external customers, you can gain your market share, right? And when you gain
Hmm.
your market share, it impacts your top line. And if you're looking for an EBITDA expansion, you want to decrease your bottom line, which you're squeezing anyway to its fullest, and increase your top line. This can exponentially increase your top line, right? And
Hmm.
of course, bottom line, because you're doing it in a most optimized fashion with humans on the loop
Wow.
around it. Yeah.
This
So
is
very
called
powerful.
AI. This is called AI MBA with Rohini, because
Yes.
you're really breaking down in a very interesting way, I think, how leaders need to think about AI and the balance sheet.
Yeah. 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 And anything that does not relate to these three numbers, right? Your free cash flow, your revenue upliftment, and EBITDA expansion, it doesn't matter. If your AI initiatives cannot relate and provide impact on these three numbers, does not really matter for MOIC, for an asset, for a private equity firm.
Do you have an example you can show it? Tell us where you went in. It's okay if you can't talk about the specific customer, but where you came in. And I'm specifically thinking, hey, they were thinking about this differently. I came in, or your team came in and helped them sort of reframe where AI is going to hit the business bottom line. And because of that, it shifted the actions that they took or the priorities that they addressed first.
So in one engagement, right, the organization was facing large scale legacy modernization, which was resulting in slower release cycle, rising engineering costs, mounting technical debt. And the original modernization roadmap was expected to take multiple years, right? What
Hmm.
changed was the introduction to an AI enabled execution model that Ascendion provided, not just co-pilots for developers, but redesigning the whole SDLC around agentic engineering workflows. That
Hmm.
included AI assisted modernization, automated testing and QA acceleration, AI driven documentation, faster defect remediation, and tighter engineering delivery loops, right? So the measurable impact was significant. Engineering productivity improvements in the 50+% range. Release velocity increased materially, right? So when release velocity increases materially, which means it impacts your revenue. Modernization timelines compressed dramatically, right? And engineering cost structures improved by 40 to 60%, right? So you're impacting both top
Whoa.
line and bottom line, which impacts your EBITDA, thereby the MOIC.
What do you think the rest of the world can learn from the way these private equity based companies are handling AI transformation?
I think if I were an operator uh, for these private equity firms, I would not wait for infrastructure readiness and data readiness. I just think it's an
Tell me
alibi.
more about that. You just raised some eyebrows.
Right,
Do
right.
not wait for, because you say do not wait for AI data readiness, but what if my data is terrible? And most companies, it's probably
If your data is
somewhat terrible.
terrible, right? Of
It's
course, you've got you've got fixes around the workflow. So focus on the workflow that you want to agentify, which will give you a direct impact on your revenue or cost, right? Look at the data that is required for that particular workflow, make that successful, rinse and repeat,
Hmm.
right? But if you start cleansing your whole data in the entire organization, modernizing your entire infrastructure in the entire organization, it will be too late. And why I'm telling you it's too late, because the
Hmm.
other companies would have done it. And then the gap between your revenue as well as your profits will start compounding quarter on quarter, right? And when it starts compounding quarter on quarter, it just takes a year for you then to fall behind so much, because you were waiting for that data readiness and infrastructure readiness, that
Whoa.
you can be wiped out, right? So it's a
That's
clear difference
bold.
on,
Rohini, that is bold, my friends.
yeah.
You're scaring many leaders right now because they feel trapped between a rock and a hard place. Okay. I see this, right? Like you say, the compounding of waiting, it gets worse because the world's moving on, the expectations are changing, and you still don't have an effective AI foundation inside of your company. How do we navigate that as a business leader?
As a business leader, right? There are companies who have spent trillions and trillions of dollars to get data ready, get their infrastructure readiness taken care of, right? And of course, they've got an advantage, but that advantage will not translate unless they
Hmm,
move their operating model, right? So they've done all the
hmm,
good things on paper, but unless they change their operating model, they will not be able to move fast, right? On the other side, there are companies who've not done a lot for data readiness and infrastructure readiness, but very intelligently and smartly identifying workflows where they can use an orchestrator to start getting all the AI tools very, very pragmatically, but it's impacting revenue and cost. I think those will be the winners because they are more agile, um,
hmm,
and they are making changes as they move forward, right? And
hmm.
the decision making is very fast. So I think, in my opinion, for private equity backed companies, all of these are,
Yep.
private equity companies are usually, new age companies, right? So all of these are nimble and are swift and can move fast and make changes and decisions as they are working on these workflows.
What are the industries that are most in the pocket for this kind of acceleration with AI tools? Because there are some industries, well, public companies are probably out immediately because there's too much reporting, right? Too much regulation. Is that what
Too many
are there industry?
regulatory protocols that they have to abide to, which slows them
Hmm,
down. And all of these require a lot of governance as you're rolling out these AI initiatives, right?
yeah.
And there are risks
Yep.
associated to it, right? So, hence,
Yep.
new guardrails, new way of working has to be created, which require approvals. And for a public company, those approvals go into loops. However, for a PE backed companies, you've got private equity operating partners as value creation teams sitting alongside with the portcos saying, hey guys, we need to move fast. We will take these decisions, create these guardrails for you, give you the approvals. Let's move fast. I think that's the difference.
Hmm.
Difference is decision making velocity is much more higher for private equity backed companies.
Private equity, are there specific industries within private equity? You're like, hey, if you're a PE based company, or, portfolio company or
Right.
in this industry, like you are in the sweet spot of AI acceleration. And hey, maybe if you're in these other ones, you might want to hesitate before you jump in.
I think software companies and high tech companies, they are and have the advantage of moving fast because they understand technology well. Like that's their core.
Hmm.
So they understand technology well. I would say fintechs because of the fact that finance has always had a first mover advantage.
Hmm.
Fintech companies which are owned by private equity, they are moving very
Okay.
fast. Right.
Okay.
Retail companies, they want to look at data and analytics, use AI around it, and quickly impact their market share. So, like I said, this has a direct impact on top line for retail. So they are moving fast, right?
Hmm.
Manufacturing, on the other hand, is not as fast as the others.
What is inherent about manufacturing that slows down AI adoption?
From a manufacturing point of view, they've always been these large, big dinosaur age companies, right? Um,
Some
and
would say
and and for
legacy,
them,
dinosaur versus legacy. I've worked for the dinosaurs.
and have a lot of legacy associated with them. You're very right, Ben, right? So we have a lot of
Yes,
legacy
yes.
associated with them. And then
Yeah.
again, to the point, it comes down to more closer to traditional way of working. So the
Hmm.
change
Okay.
management for that will take a lot of time, right? On
Yep.
the other hand, I see healthcare and life sciences getting very, very innovative and creative on how they want to be, impacting the patient experience in all kinds of different ways. We were just now at the AI agentic conference in New York, and we saw a lot of healthcare and life sciences companies trying to make
Good.
difference to people's lives, which was very, very encouraging.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Healthcare is obviously a very noble area to apply AI. My understanding in talking to leaders, the biggest problem they have is data security, data privacy, and the fact that its data's walled off. In fact, an executive told me, works for a big company. He's like, Ben, we have enough data to solve most of the world's health problems. The problem is it's just all walled off from each other.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
look at the rate of that the COVID vaccine was rolled out in like world history speed time, that's the possibility.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so
And I think
how are you seeing
risk
this
and
in that
governance.
industry?
Correct, correct. So I think risk and governance are extremely important when you're dealing with data, especially, PII data. Scaling AI with this data also scales your risk, right? So how do
Hmm.
you manage it? Is you have an orchestration layer which has human in the loop, on the loop, audit ready, AI documentation, platform maturity designed to hold up through due diligence, right? From a private equity perspective, that means you need to have humans in the loop across your agentic flows. There has to be auditability
Hmm.
built into
Ah.
execution, traceability around decisions and outputs, security and compliance guardrails embedded into development pipeline, right? And clear accountability of production outcomes and the data that they are using, right? In PE environments, right, governance for these healthcare companies is there's extreme scrutiny because one small data leakage can diminish the value of the company overnight. It can be blank zero, right?
Hmm.
So they are extremely careful saying that if you're using data, It has to be controlled, has to be explainable, has to be secure, has to be measurable, has to be sustainable at scale. So you're right. For healthcare companies, it's extremely important to make sure you have these risk and governance guardrails while you're implementing AI.
3 to 5 years from now, what separates the companies that win the AI race from the ones that will never catch up?
Once an organization is able to rewire its operating model for AI, right, then their success and delta of success over people who have not been able to do it is just going to compound.
You mentioned AI native companies and the difference. What to you is an AI native leader?
An AI native leader is who does not have AI on the fringes or on the sidelines or part of a technology initiative. An AI native leader is a company which has embedded AI into all of their workflows, right? So you can start with one workflow, two workflow, make it a success, make it impact your revenue, make it impact your EBITDA. But it's extremely important that if you've made those workflows successful, you scale it across that business function. Once you scale it for that business function, you scale it across all the other business functions, right? And once you've scaled it across all the other functions for that portco, for that one portco, you scale it across all the other portcos inside a private equity. That will make it an AI native private equity, which has all the portcos who are AI native. And hence, they can demand that multiple in the market.
If you're leading a private equity backed company, what's the first move you should make in the next 30 days to create an AI advantage?
For me, the first move would be to identify the workflow which links directly to revenue, right? And that is engineering. For a software company, it's engineering, right? Look at the entire engineering process. Has that been agentified? Is that giving you the velocity for production? Is that giving you faster releases? Is that increasing revenue per engineer? Look at those 5, 6 metrics and agentify the whole engineering, product engineering division. That would be my first move as an operator. And of course, also on the fringes, look at cost opportunities for non-core.
Wow, a lot to think about today, Rainey. I think it's an interesting perspective. So many people think AI is Chat GPT and just taking out cost. But through your eyes, it seems like AI is a bottom line business investment to make your company more valuable at the end of the
Absolutely,
day.
absolutely, absolutely.
And
People pay for scalability and durability, and AI enables that in the organizations. And if you're not using AI to get velocity, scalability, and durability, you're not using AI in the right manner. And if you use it in the right manner, the multiples for those companies will grow exponentially.
thanks for joining us today, Rohini, on AI native leaders, my friend. Been fun.
Thanks. Thanks, Ben.